This week, politics in the Confederate Army, politics in the Union Army, and politics in Congress. Maybe the last part is not as surprising. First thing this week, and the first thing on the 20th, Full General Braxton Bragg receives an order from Confederate President Jefferson Davis to take hold of the Confederate forces in the West. That Bragg happily does. It's been confirmed. Bragg shall decide the Confederates' future in the West. It's not temporary, it's permanent. Second thing on the 20th, Brigadier General Don Carlos Buell of the Union is on the march. He has reached Florence, Alabama, 60 miles away from where he began. Surely impressive, but Buell is not yet satisfied. He wants Huntsville, Alabama. There he can link up with fellow Union forces and create a consolidated Union army of his own. Last thing on the 20th, letters between Major General Irvin McDowell, Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Washington, June 20th, 1862. Colonel E. Shriver, Chief of Staff. Please inform me what is the condition of General McDowell this morning. Edwin Stanton. Manassas, June 20th, 12:30 p.m. Honorary E.M. Stanton, Washington. In reply to your telegram about General McDowell, I am happy to acquaint you that he is much better this morning. Ed Shriver, Colonel, Chief of Staff. The next day, Major General Irvin McDowell personally reports to Lincoln, improving and sitting up, and hopes soon to regain my bodily activity. Despite McDowell's promise of soon bodily activity, Lincoln keeps Major General John Pope in control of his relief army for McClellan. If McClellan needs it. McClellan probably will need it. Lincoln has grown as tired as possible with fighting Mac. The man seems to do nothing. He just wants McClellan to fight a battle, engage the enemy, and advance. Why won't McClellan do that? Also on the 21st, a skirmish near Charleston in South Carolina. The 55th Pennsylvania moves forward to destroy the Charleston-Sylvania Railroad. Against them is the 16th South Carolina, who are soon dispersed. But for some reason, the Pennsylvanians don't destroy the railroad and then get on their naval transports and leave. I guess the Union won. There were 0 casualties. What happened? The 23rd, Major General Henry Halleck gives a pretty strong middle finger to Major General Ulysses S. Grant. He orders Grant's divisions directly to move for Memphis. Grant from headquarters would handle logistics. A very important position, but without any prestige. He writes, "My position at Corinth, with a nominal command and yet no command, became so unbearable that I asked permission to remove my headquarters to Memphis." Grant feels disgraced. He has won victories, now he pushes paper. In the East, even more politicking. 23rd, midnight, Washington, D.C. A silent train pulls out, with the president inside. President Abraham Lincoln needs to consult with former General Winfield Scott. Next day in D.C., a very loud train enters, with Major General John Pope. Maybe he's a topic of the Winfield Scott-Lincoln meeting. Maybe it's over the First Corps. Maybe it's over the future of McClellan. But whatever it is, there are no strong records of it. I consider the numbers and positions of Fremont and Banks adequate to the protection of Washington against any force the enemy can bring by way of Upper Potomac. The troops at Manassas with the garrisons of the Washington forts equally adequate to his protection on the south. Force at Fredericksburg seems entirely out of position. It cannot be called up directly and in time by McClellan from the want of railroad transportation. If, however, there be sufficient vessels at hand, that force might reach the head of the York River in time to aid in the operations against Richmond. Dallas' force at Manassas might be ordered to Richmond by being replaced by King's brigade. Defeat of the rebels at Richmond or their forced retreat thence would be a virtual end of the rebellion. Soon entire Virginia would be restored to the Union. Main points to occupy are Mobile, Charleston, Chattanooga. These must soon come within our hands. Respectfully submitted, Winfield Scott. This is what Lincoln gets from his former general. His current general, McClellan, better do something soon or he might get the sack. But I've been saying that for months now. Will Lincoln seriously fire the famous general? Or maybe he doesn't need to fire him, but move him somewhere else. But the men love him. Will they accept a new leader? These questions surely do trouble the president. On the 24th, an argument in the Senate. Under the pretense of suppressing a causeless rebellion, the executive and legislative departments of this government are, in my opinion, daily engaged in the grossest violations of the fundamental law. In times of peace, the Constitution is the surest protection of the citizen. In times of civil war, it is his only hope of safety. It is my purpose today to strip assumption of its false pretensions and to expose to public view the real authors and abettors of my country's ruin. From my place, I say that it is my deliberate and solemn conviction that either abolitionism or constitutional liberty must forever die. The two cannot exist together. Abolitionism has for the time being dissolved the Union. While it lives and rules, the Union will remain dissolved. It is pretty clear what the Delaware senator is saying. This bill to free rebel slaves is unconstitutional. He goes on to speak for pages and pages, but I shall spare you the details and move on. Later on, Senator Sherman of Ohio speaks. I have an amendment to offer. Senator Sumner is not ready to be bogged down into amendments. I'm opposed to altering the House bill. We've had a great deal of controversy about this confiscation question. I think the wisest course would be to adhere to the House bill and make it law. On the 25th, it begins again. First from Senator Browning of Illinois. We are in arms against the rebels because they are in arms against the Constitution. They are struggling to overthrow it, we to maintain and uphold it. This is the theory of the war. The practice should conform to the theory. If it does not, we are fighting in vain. We should keep the reestablishment of the Constitution over all the states of the Union before us as the great object of the war. We cannot succeed unless we ourselves keep within the limits of the Constitution and respect and submit to its authority. When we put aside its provisions, break over its restraints, and go outside its limits, we become co-workers with rebels and traitors in their work of destruction. The senator from Massachusetts, Mr. Sumner, in his discussion of the bill under consideration, has given expression to such novel and extraordinary views. It is now an undeniable law, principles of such dangerous tendency, which, if carried into legislation, will be so flatly mischievous in their consequences, that I cannot permit them to go to the country and into the permanent records of its history, with my earnest protest against them. The Senator has correctly stated the ends we have in view: national unity under the Constitution of the United States. These ends cannot be attained by the measure he proposes. If it be conceded that they would secure national unity, they would fail to secure it under the Constitution, for they would themselves overthrow that Constitution. Senator Sumner then interrupts. May I interrupt the Senator? Yes, sir. I have in my hand the bill, and in its introduction it states that all property of the persons herein named are hereby forfeited to the government and are declared lawful subjects of capture. The bill, therefore, is derived directly from the positive language of the Constitution. Considering it to be so, I think there's no fair-minded lawyer who will take the pains to examine the constitutional provisions, who is familiar with the law of nations, and who will compare them to this bill. Will not at once concede that this bill, if it does not in terms relate to captures, does so in terms only for the purpose of evading a plain constitutional provision that does not come at all within the spirit or the letter or the intention of the Constitution. Senator Browning then goes on to talk about the difference between Congress and the government. I agree with author Joe Ryan when I say this is a difference without a distinction. The argument goes on, but this is all you need to know for now. On the 26th, from McDowell to Lincoln, the readiest way of getting my command to join McClellan before Richmond is to march those now at Manassas to Fredericksburg, there join King's division, thence to march, by way of Bowling Green, across the Mattapony, Pamunkey rivers. And then from Lincoln to McDowell, to be called the Army of Virginia. Second, the command of the Army of Virginia is specifically assigned to Major General John Pope as commanding general. Third, the Army of Virginia shall operate in such manner as, while protecting Western Virginia, the national capital from danger or insult, shall in the speediest manner attack and overcome the forces of Stonewall Jackson, threaten the enemy in the direction of Charlottesville, and render aid to relieve McClellan and capture Richmond. Fourth, the Army of Virginia and the Army of the Potomac shall be in a position to communicate and directly cooperate at or before Richmond. The chief command shall be governed by the rules and articles of war. A. Lincoln. Then there is Sickles. Well, I won't be talking about our hero Sickles here, since I've already been doing that in my battles videos. That's where the week ends, and it ends continuing into next week. That's not very satisfying now, is it? The two battles of Oak Grove and Beaver Creek Dam are not going to be the last. There will be one tomorrow. So I will leave you like this. And that's where the week ends, continuing into next week. Well, that's not very satisfying. Battles of Oak Grove, Beaver Creek have happened this week, but they have been small in size. there will be another battle tomorrow. And it will leave you like this week has left me. Anxious, waiting, not for something to happen, but for the news of it to reach us. Hello, it's the entire Civil War Week by Week team here. I just want to say thank you for the 1,000 subscribers, and hopefully 1,000 more fall into this trap. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want to tell me how much you liked it, please comment. If you want to see more, you should be seeing playlists, recommended videos, and a button to subscribe if you don't want to go to the one down below. It has been an honor reporting this very old news to you, and I'll see you next week.